What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors finally reaches his breaking point on live television? Well, Hugh Jackman, known for his calm demeanor and professional grace, absolutely lost it during what was supposed to be a routine promotional appearance on The View. And it all started with Joy Behar's relentless attacks that crossed every line of decency. This is a story that will shock you. So, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think. Went too far. Let's dive right into what really happened behind those cameras. The morning started like any other promotional tour stop for Hugh Jackman. He was there to discuss his upcoming Broadway return, something he'd been passionate about for months. The producers had briefed him that it would be a light, fun conversation about his career and new projects. What they didn't tell him was that Joy Behar had spent the previous evening digging through old interviews looking for ammunition to create controversy. As Hugh walked onto the set, his trademark smile lighting up the studio, the audience erupted in applause. He waved warmly, took his seat next to the hosts, and seemed genuinely excited to be there. Whoopi Goldberg started with the usual pleasantries. "Hugh, it's always wonderful to have you here. You look fantastic, and we're so excited to hear about your return to Broadway," Whoopi said with genuine warmth. "Thank you so much for having me back. I have to say, every time I'm here, I feel like I'm visiting family," Hugh responded, his Australian accent adding charm to every word. The conversation flowed naturally. For the first few minutes, Sarah Haynes asked about his preparation routine. Alyssa Ferris inquired about working with the cast, and everything seemed perfectly normal. Hugh was in his element, telling funny anecdotes about rehearsals and sharing his genuine passion for live theater. Then Joy Behar leaned forward with that look in her eyes that regular viewers know all too well. The look that says she's about to drop a bombshell. "Hugh, I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me," Joy said, her voice taking on that confrontational tone she reserves for her most aggressive moments. Hugh's expression shifted slightly, but he maintained his composure. "Of course, Joy, what's on your mind?" "Well, I've been reading about your past interviews, and I noticed you've been very quiet about certain political issues. Some might say you're being deliberately evasive. Are you afraid to take a stand because it might hurt your precious career?" The studio fell silent. Even the camera operator seemed to sense the sudden shift in energy. Hugh's smile faltered for just a moment before he collected himself. "I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at, Joy. I've always believed that my job as an entertainer is to bring joy and escapism to people, not to lecture them about politics," Hugh replied diplomatically. But Joy wasn't backing down. In fact, she was just getting started. "Oh, please. That's such a cop-out. You have a platform, you have influence, and you choose to stay silent while important issues are happening in the world. Don't you think that's a little selfish?" The other hosts exchanged uncomfortable glances. Whoopi tried to intervene. Joy, maybe we should focus on Hugh's upcoming show. Whoopi suggested gently. But Joy ignored her, completely impressed. Forward. No, I think this is important, Hugh. You've made millions of dollars from American audiences, and yet, when they need celebrities to speak up about crucial issues, you disappear. How do you justify that kind of privilege? Without responsibility? Hugh's jaw tightened slightly, but he maintained his professional demeanor. Joy, I respect your opinion, but I disagree with your premise. I've supported numerous charities. I've used my platform to raise awareness for causes I believe in, and I've always tried to be a positive force in the world. I just don't think my political opinion should influence how people enjoy entertainment. That's convenient, Joy shot back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. So, you'll take their money, but you won't fight for their rights. Got it. The audience was visibly uncomfortable. Now, this wasn't the fun, light-hearted interview they'd expected to witness. Hugh looked around at the other hosts, clearly hoping someone would steer the conversation back on track, but Joy was in full attack mode. And another thing, Hugh, I've noticed. You're very careful about which interviews you give, which shows you appear on. Are you trying to control your image? Because to me, that seems pretty calculated and fake. Hugh's hands were clenched in his lap now, though he was trying his best to maintain his composure. His voice remained steady, but there was an edge creeping in. Joy, I'm not sure why you're being so hostile, but I came here to talk about my love for theater and to connect with the audience. If you want to have a political debate, perhaps this isn't the right forum. Oh, so now I'm being hostile because I'm asking real questions instead of lobbing softballs at you like everyone else does. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Hugh. You can't handle any real scrutiny. The tension in the studio was becoming unbearable. Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to crawl under the table, and even the audience had stopped making any noise. But Joy wasn't finished. You know what really bothers me about actors like you? Joy continued, completely ignoring the obvious discomfort of everyone around her. You come on these shows, you smile, you charm everyone, but underneath it all, you're just another privileged celebrity who thinks they're better than everyone else. Hugh's eyes flashed with something the audience had never seen before. His voice remained controlled, but the warmth was completely gone. Joy, I think you're crossing a line here. I've been nothing but respectful to you and this show, and I'm not sure what I've done to deserve this kind of treatment. Crossing a line? Joy laughed mockingly. Oh, that's rich coming from someone who's made a career out of playing tough guys on screen but can't handle a few honest questions in real life. Whoopi tried once more to intervene, her voice more firm this time. Joy, I really think we should move on to talking about Hugh's Broadway show. Our viewers tuned in to hear about entertainment, not to watch an interrogation. But Joy was on a roll now, and she clearly had no intention of stopping. No, whoopee. I think our viewers deserve to see who these celebrities really are when they're not reading from a script. Hugh, let me ask you this directly. Do you think you're better than the average person who watches this show? Hugh sat back in his chair and for the first time his famous composure started to crack. His voice was still controlled, but there was steel in it now. Joy, that's an incredibly insulting question and I think you know it. I've never claimed to be better than anyone. And the fact that you would even suggest that shows more about your mindset than mine. Oh, so now you're psychoanalyzing me. How convenient. You can't answer a simple question, so you turn it back on me. Sarah Haynes finally found her voice, trying desperately to salvage the situation. Hugh, maybe you could tell us about working with your Broadway co-stars. I'm sure our audience would love to hear about the rehearsal process. But Joy immediately cut her off. Sarah, please. I'm in the middle of having an actual conversation here. Something the show desperately needs more of instead of these fluff pieces. Hugh turned to look directly at Joy and the camera caught something in his eyes that made the entire studio hold its breath. Joy, I need to ask you something. Did I do something personal to offend you? Because this feels very personal and I'm trying to understand why you're being so unnecessarily cruel. Cruel? I'm being cruel? I'm asking you questions that any serious journalist would ask. The problem is you're so used to everyone kissing your feet that you can't handle real scrutiny. Real scrutiny. Hugh's voice was getting louder now, though he was still trying to maintain some semblance of control. Joy, you haven't asked me a single substantive question. You've made accusations. You've questioned my character, and you've been deliberately provocative. That's not journalism. That's just being mean-spirited. Joy leaned back with a satisfied smirk, as if she'd proven some kind of point. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. The real Hugh Jackman. Not so charming. When someone challenges him, is he? That comment seemed to hit something deep in Hugh because his entire demeanor changed in an instant. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a level that was somehow more intimidating than if he had been shouting. Joy, let me be very clear about something. I came here as a guest on your show. I came here with respect for you, for your colleagues, and for your audience. I've answered every reasonable question you've asked, and I've tried to remain professional despite your increasingly hostile behavior. The studio was dead silent now. Even Joy seemed momentarily taken back by the intensity in Hugh's voice. But you seem determined to turn this into some kind of confrontation for reasons I cannot fathom. So, let me ask you a question, Joy. What exactly are you trying to accomplish here? Because if your goal is to make me look bad, you're failing spectacularly. You're only making yourself look petty and unprofessional. Joy's smirk faltered for just a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. I'm trying to have an honest conversation with you, Hugh. Something you seem incapable of. Honest? Hugh's voice was rising now, and you could see the anger building behind his eyes. You want honesty? Here's some honesty for you, Joy. You've been rude. You've been disrespectful. And you've been deliberately antagonistic from the moment you opened your mouth. And, frankly, I'm getting tired of it. Alyssa. Ferris looked like she was ready to jump out of her chair and run while Sarah Haynes was frantically looking at the producers off camera, clearly hoping someone would step in. But the train wreck was in full motion now, and there was no stopping it. Joy doubled down, her voice getting sharper. Oh, so now the real Hugh Jackman is coming out. Not so nice and polite now, are we? This is what I've been trying to show everyone. Underneath that carefully crafted image, you're just another arrogant celebrity who can't handle criticism. Hugh stood up so abruptly that his chair nearly fell over backwards. The audience gasped audibly, and you could feel the energy in the room shift completely. You know what, Joy? Hugh's voice boomed across the studio, and every person in that room knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. I've had enough of this. I've sat here patiently while you've attacked my character, questioned my integrity, and tried to provoke me into exactly this kind of reaction. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted. Joy looked momentarily startled, but quickly tried to regain control of the situation. Hugh, maybe you should sit down and we can discuss this like adults. Like adults? Hugh let out a bitter laugh that echoed through the stunned studio. Joy, you wouldn't recognize adult behavior if it hit you in the face. You've spent the last 15 minutes acting like a schoolyard bully. And now you want to lecture me about being an adult. The cameras were capturing every moment of this meltdown, and the producers were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let this train wreck continue. The audience was frozen in shock, witnessing the complete destruction of what was supposed to be a light-hearted interview. I think you're overreacting, Joy said, but her voice lacked its earlier confidence. Overreacting? Hugh's voice cracked with incredulous anger. Joy, you questioned whether I deserve the success I've worked 30 years to achieve. You accused me of being fake, selfish, and arrogant. You suggested I think I'm better than your viewers. And you did all of this without provocation, without cause, and apparently for your own entertainment. Whoopi was desperately trying to regain control of her show. Hugh, Joy, let's all take a breath here and try to reset this conversation. But Hugh was beyond the point of no return. He turned to address Whoopi directly, his voice still loud but filled with a different kind of emotion now. Whoopi, I have nothing but respect for you and this show. I've been a guest here multiple times, and it's always been a pleasure. But I will not sit here and be verbally abused by someone who seems to think that being cruel is the same thing as being clever. He turned back to Joy, and the fire in his eyes was unmistakable. And you, Joy, I don't know what kind of day you're having or what personal issues you might be dealing with, but that doesn't give you the right to take it out on your guests. I came here to promote a Broadway show that I'm passionate about, to talk about. Something that brings me joy and hopefully brings joy to other people. Instead, you've turned this into some kind of twisted power play. Joy tried to interrupt, but Hugh held up his hand. No, I'm not finished. You want to know who I really am? I'm someone who has worked incredibly hard to get where I am. I'm someone who tries to treat people with kindness and respect, regardless of their station in life. I'm someone who believes in using whatever platform I have to make the world a little bit better. And I'm someone who will not tolerate being treated like garbage on national television. The silence in the studio was deafening. Even the crew members had stopped what they were doing to watch this unprecedented moment unfold. Hugh's voice dropped to a more conversational level, but the intensity never wavered. Joy, I don't know why you decided to make me your target today, but you've crossed every line of professional decency. You've been disrespectful, not just to me, but to your colleagues and to your audience who tuned in expecting something better than this. Joy made one last attempt to salvage the situation. Her voice much smaller now. Hugh, I think you're taking this too personally. I was just trying to ask challenging questions. Hugh shook his head slowly, a look of genuine disappointment on his face. No, Joy. Challenging questions would have been about my craft, about the industry, about the themes in my work. What you did was a personal attack, disguised as journalism. And the most disappointing part is that you seem to think your behavior was justified. He looked around at the other hosts, his expression softening slightly. Sarah, Alyssa, Whoopi, I apologize that you had to witness this. You've all been nothing but professional and kind. Then he looked directly into the camera, addressing the audience at home. To everyone watching, I want you to know that this is not representative of the conversations I usually have on this show or any show. I believe in treating people with dignity and respect, and I expect the same in return. What happened here today was unfortunate, but sometimes you have to stand up for yourself when someone tries to tear you down for their own purposes. He turned back to Joy one final time. Joy, I hope someday you understand the difference between being provocative and being cruel. There's a way to challenge guests that doesn't involve attacking their character or trying to humiliate them on national television. With that, Hugh walked toward the edge of the set, but Joy couldn't let it go. She had to have the last word. Running away, Hugh. I guess we really did see the real you today. Hugh stopped dead in his tracks. Slowly, he turned back to face her, and the look on his face made everyone in that studio hold their breath. No Joy. Running away would have been staying silent while you continued your attack. What you saw today was someone who has enough self-respect to refuse to be your verbal punching bag. And if that threatens you somehow, that says everything about you and nothing about me. He walked off the set to complete silence, leaving behind one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. The camera lingered on Joy's face, which had gone from smug Satisfaction to something approaching. Shock as she realized that her attempt to embarrass Hugh Jackman had backfired spectacularly. This was a masterclass in what happens when someone pushes a genuinely good person too far. Hugh Jackman didn't just defend himself. He exposed exactly what kind of person Joy Behar really is when the cameras are rolling. What do you think? Did Hugh go too far, or was Joy completely out of line? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more explosive celebrity moments like this.